Hello, Chads. This is the SupStePer speaking. I have experienced a phenomenon called losing friends right after I turned 20. And this is a phenomenon which hasn't really been studied, yet somehow it has affected more people than I know than those who I do not know. And I'm assuming that many of you have been affected by this phenomenon. I do not quite understand why this happens, why suddenly people disappear out of your life like they weren't even part of it, and pretend that they never knew you. But I'm sure that most of you have had something like this happen to them. I personally have had a group of friends which they all of a sudden decided to drop contact. No reason, no explanation, nothing. In fact, I even tried to understand what happened, try to make amends. Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe something I did wrong and I never realized what it was. And there was none of that. Nothing. The entire group just decided to stop talking to me. But I thought I had done something wrong. And in the end, after many years of dwelling on thought that I, in fact, did something wrong, I came to the conclusion that I hadn't done anything. And this is proven further that I stopped having contact with a different friend, which I was best friends with, but something changed with him. And I had decided from that point onwards to not speak to him. I will not go into details as to why I dropped contact with this person, but I will go into detail as to why this phenomenon happens. And it is a very easy line of reference to see. It is the transition between teenager and adulthood. And this is where there is a personality shift between every single person. Every single person on this planet changes in terms of personality, mostly when they become an adult from a teenager. And this also can be seen by babies turning into toddlers, toddlers turning into children, children turning into teenagers, and adults turning into elderly. This is where you see personality shifts, and these are the only times, in my opinion, there is no scientific evidence for this, but I have strong reason to suspect this based off of what I've read. People do not change, but in these points of their life, they do. One shift, and then they remain like that for the rest of their years, I guess. At least for the years that irrespective for their group. Like an adult from their 20s all the way to their, let's say, 60s, they will remain like that. And then from 60 onwards, they change. They have a split personality. That's probably why midlife crisis is a phenomenon. It is a sudden shift in a person's life, adult life, where they start doing crazy things. This is why, as teenagers, we are also there's a bad reputation that teenagers have more anger issues, they have more complex personalities, they don't have a proper personality in general. That is a very, very common thing that has been discussed and has been seen amongst people. And you see them become more normal as they turn into adults. I believe this is the reason why people all of a sudden drop friends when they become adults, because their personalities change. And all of a sudden, the person they were once constantly in contact with no longer is the same as them, as they once were. And also, people do change in that time period. And all of a sudden, what you considered appealing about a person suddenly is not. And I noticed this amongst every friend group that I've ever encountered. Something shifts. Now, obviously, some people still remain as friends, going from teenagers to adults, but dynamics still shift, and it's not the same thing. Even though you remain as friends, you're not the same friendship, if you know what I mean. This can technically be similar when children become teenagers. A similar phenomenon occurs right there. I mean, I never experienced it for myself because I had left an entire country and moved and met new people at the time where I was a child becoming a teenager. And so I didn't ever find out what that meant. But others kind of had gone through something like that in their younger selves. Obviously, some other factors come into play as to why people stop being friends when adulthood hits, and that is also because of what direction they've chosen to take in life. Some people move cities, go to other universities, and they just drift apart because of circumstances that are not in their control. And that is a valid excuse, but it still doesn't really excuse dropping off a friendship, because that is situation, like it's a situationship in a way. It's situational. You're friends with that person because you just happen to be in the same area, same school, same something. That's not really a friendship. So I wouldn't classify those relationships as friendships. They are more like benefactors. You benefit from the other person being your friend because of some other external reason. Another thing that people would say is that others don't have the time to hang out or do activities. And I still also believe that is an excuse. Everybody has time to do something with other people. Not finding that time is, well, you don't have an excuse. I mean, I used to go to a 9 to 5 job, and that took up most of my time in the day because I had to, travel time was just 3 hours on its own, and plus another 8 being there. So I would leave here at about 7:30, I'd say, and get back here at about 7. No, I wouldn't even say that. I would say 6:30. So I'd be back here at 6:30 and I'd go to sleep at about 12. But during those 6-ish hours, I'd still go to the gym, edit, stream, even maybe do another activity, and also eat and everything else that I would do. But see, I still make time to go to the gym. And at the gym is where I have my current friends, and I speak to people there. So let's say that you don't stream or you have no other hobbies, which you should have another hobby. I had 2 hobbies, but it just so happens that one of them is social, so I could actually talk to people. Well, you could always make time to go to the gym. Now, if it's with your friends or not, like that is a scenario, like it doesn't have to be with your friends, but you can always have an activity or do something with your friends. Whether that is go on a Discord call or call them just normally, maybe play a video game, maybe meet up, but meet up is a bit more difficult during the week, but organize for the weekend to do something. There is always a possibility to do all that, regardless of where you are, who you're talking to, whatever. But people make excuses to not talk to another person. I had reasons for not talking to that friend that I once had, but the reasons were quite valid. Although they did not affect me directly, I still made excuses to not be with that person. And I think that's what most people do. They make reasons to not hang out with a person. Another thing that could also affect relationships between friends is relationships in general. If you meet a girl and you start going out with her instead of your friends, well, all of a sudden you don't have as much time for them. Thus, why you drift apart slowly. Even before I reached adulthood and I had my group of friends, a few of the guys there had girlfriends, and I would rarely see them when they had someone because they'd rather hang around with that person rather than the friend group. And it makes sense, you know, you want to build a future with this person. And of course, you'd make time to be with them. It makes sense. But at the same time, it also makes sense because you don't know if friendships will last. And the more closely you get to adulthood, which I am in my mid 20s now, and I've realized that, yeah, friendships do not last. And unfortunately, one way or another, they do end. So, to anyone out there that is under 20 and you've got a friend group that you constantly hang around and you consider them best friends, I do not know what is going to happen with you and them in the future, but I do know one thing: cherish every moment. Be with your friends, talk to them, have laughs, play games, do whatever you want with them. But cherish those moments, remember them, keep them close to you, because one day they will be gone forever. And whether you will remain friends with those people is up to situations and circumstances that you do not have control over. And no, if you do lose your friends, if you do not talk to these people that you were once so freely able to talk to, no, it is not your fault. Life got in the way. That is all I have for today. I will see you all in the next video. See you, Chads.